Hello everyone, how is it going today? While we are waiting for the others to join, I would like to ask you about, is anyone here have any idea about active and passive voice and what is the difference? Guys, today we are going to talk about active and passive voice. Does anyone know? If you knew, you just have to raise your hand. If you don't, just chill back there. Okay, since everyone is here, let's go jump into the topic. So what is active and passive voice? Verb sentences in a sentence can be said to be active or passive depending on what the subject is doing. Before we go jump into the first topic today, let me give you a key takeaways about the active and passive voice. Active voice focus on the active subject. Okay, so you might want to note that active voice focus on the active subject because the subject is directly performing an activity to the object. But in a passive voice, we are focused on the target object. In this case, as we know, the target object is the object that is receiving the activity. I will give an explanation later. So, our topic today is, what is active voice? Next. Sorry. It's quiet. Okay. And what is passive voice? Basic rules of changing active to passive. And the last one, we will learn how to change active to passive or vice versa. Let's go jump to the first topic. So, what is active voice? It's called with active voice because the subject is active or is doing a job. In other words, the subject is directly doing something to the object. As I said before, the subject is doing something to the object. So here's why it's called with active. So what the subject is doing and what is the subject is doing to the object. You will find an explanation here. Here's why. It's called with active because the subject is directly performing the activity. Let's take a look at the sentence below. I bath my cat every weekend. As we can see, I is the doer of the activity. It's not because I is grammatically the subject. It's because I is doing something, which is bath, and I doing the bath to my cat. So my cat is the object because my cat receiving the bath. Until here, do you understand what I'm talking about? If you don't, you can just simply ask me at the end of this topic today. Okay, let's carry on. And the cat is the target of the activity. This activity right here, bath, targeting the cat. The cat is receiving a bath. That's why the cat is called with the object. That's what active voice. And now we are going to talk about the passive voice. You will find a difference, a significant difference here. Let's go on. Passive voice. It's called a passive voice because the action's target is the main topic. simply because the subject is passive or does not do work directly. They're just explaining that the object receiving an activity from the subject. So the main focus is the object, not the subject anymore. Because the subject is no longer doing a direct activity. The sentence is just explaining about an object that is receiving an activity from subject. Until here, do you have any question? Alright, hold on. It's quiet. Okay. So, what does that mean? As I just said, it's called it passive because the action's target is the main focus, and the verb acts upon the subject. In other words, subject that is used to be the main focus now switch position with the active object. The verb is still done by the previously active subject, but this time the subject is out of the main topic. Let's take a look at the sentence below. Do you still remember that I bath my cat every weekend? Now we change it into passive. Let's take a look. From I bath my cat every weekend become every weekend my cat is bathed by me. Now it becomes every weekend my cat is bathed by me. As you can see here, the previous object, the previous subject, which is I, now turned into me. And the bath, now it's turned into bath. As it's the previous explanation is, it has a voice to target switch position with the active subject. It will change the focus from the active subject to the action target, which is my cat. Because in English, the first thing that we mentioned in a sentence will automatically be the main focus. But it's so much different than main idea. The main idea can be at the end of the sentence, and even at the end of the paragraph, or in the middle. But the main topic is usually will be mentioned at the beginning of the sentence. In this case, it is mentioned at the beginning of the clause, the main clause. My cat is bathed by me. Okay, so until here, do you have any question before we jump into the next topic? Okay, I'll take it as no. Alright, here you go. There are some basic rules of changing active to passive. Let's take a look at them. The basic rules of changing active to passive. There are a number of rules that must be met in changing active voice into passive voice. First, the subject in the active sentence is changed to the object of the passive sentence. Second, the object of the active sentence changes into the subject in the passive sentence. Third, the meaning of the sentence does not change in the form of other voice. So whether the voice is changed, but the meaning of the sentence remains the same. The only thing that changes is the position of the object and the subject and the focus, but the meaning of the sentence does not change. If it changed, so you're just violating the basic rules of changing active to passive. So that's not changing active to passive, but you are changing the entire sentence. You should keep in mind. Oh, okay. Tense of the verb must not change. This is the critical part. The tense of the verb must not change. So you would not change the context of the sentence. And the last one, the preposition by is use the passive voice to give a meaning that completes the sentence. You will learn about it later. Now, let's take a look at how to change active to passive or vice versa. How to change it? Before we change active voice into passive voice or vice versa, there are some things that we have to identify. There are only three elements that we should identify. First, we have to identify the subject. Knowing the subject means you will know who is the one that is responsible to the activity, and that must be the subject. Second one, identify the object. As I said earlier, the object usually is the receiver of the activity. So if you see a word that is receiving some kind of activity, that must be the object. And last, we have to identify the verb, what the subject is doing. If they are doing nothing, so there won't be a verb, but there's any other kind of verbs, but we are not going to talk about it today. We are going to talk about the verb that is defining an activity. So, you ready? Let's go. Take a look at the sentence below. I bath my cat every weekend. That's the active one. And every weekend, my cat is bathed by me. These two sentences still have the subject, verb, and object. The only difference is the positioning of the subject and the object. In active voice, the subject is located right before the verb. But in active, the subject is located after the verb. Between the verb and the subject, there is a preposition, which is by. Like, pardon me. Still a lot of notification here. So let's read both aloud. I bath my cat every weekend. Every weekend, my cat is bathed by me. Whether it's active or passive, the meaning does not change. The cat is receiving a bath every weekend. Oh. And in the passive voice, there are some addition. In this one, there is auxiliary verb, which is. You may notice there's an addition of auxiliary verb in the passive voice. And in the passive voice, the subject pronoun, if you notice, in the active, the subject is I. But in the passive, the subject pronoun turned into me, because it's no longer a direct subject. And in the active voice, the verb is verb 1. In the passive voice, the verb is changed into verb 3. So, we have identified the subject, verb, and object. How do we change active voice to passive voice and vice versa? But first, let's take a look at the formula below. Active voice, subject plus verb 1 with s or es plus object. And passive voice, object plus auxiliary verb such as is, am, are, plus verb 3, and the subject pronoun is turned into object pronoun from I to me. Me is the object pronoun. Changing the grammatical voice, passive and active, means We are changing the focus. Underline that. We are changing the focus, not the context of the sentence. Active is focused on the subject, and passive focus on the object. And from the formula above, we could tell that to change the active to passive, we can switch the subject position to object position by adding auxiliary verb and using verb 3 instead of verb 1. But if it's necessary, you can add like before, you can add by to describe that the activity is done by who. Oh, it's lagging again. Okay. So the next one is because the subject is now occupying the object's position. The subject is now using object pronoun, like I said before. If the subject is the main topic, the main focus, you don't have to do anything about the subject. But if the subject is now occupying the object's position, the subjects should use object pronoun instead of subject pronoun. And last one, to change passive into active, you can reverse the process by identifying the SV and O and the main focus using the formula above. So the first thing when you are reading a sentence is you should understand the structure. If the structure is and if the structure what should I call it with the structure is complying with one of these structures above, passive and active, then you just identify what kind of voice is that, and to change it you could reverse these steps right here and you're done. Now we have learned about how to change active voice into passive voice and vice versa. So what's next? Now let's call it a day. I thought our material is done and I would like you to do some exercise, but it's not an assignment, so you don't have to submit it to me. So let's just call it a day. Alright, for everyone who joined the learning today, thank you so much. I hope you stay safe and have a good day.